What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the debut offering from Empty Throne, Unholy. Well, digitally this came out on January 31st, but physically it doesn't come out until February 28th on Downfall Records, and this is the band's debut album, and it's pretty much the latest project from both Jason and Chad from bands like ANGEROT and Suffer, which are two awesome death metal bands from South Dakota, I believe. And yeah, so when I saw these guys had another band, I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out, because ANGEROT being more of like symphonic death metal, but with an HM2 tone on it, like symphonic bloodbath. And then Suffer being more like straight up death metal, but with like carcass melodies, evil morbid angel moments, and chugs of suffocation. This band, Empty Throne, is more of a blackened melodic death metal band that has a little bit more of traditional death metal mixed with melodeath and black metal. So I was like, I'm curious to check this out, considering I've loved everything Chad and Jason have done together in the other two bands thus far, but also does feature former guitarist from Possessed. I forget his name, it was Mike something. But yeah, somewhat of a supergroup. But here we go. So we kick things off with Abbey of Thelema. Right off the rip, you get this like classic heavy metal riff before it goes into like thrash metal and melodic death metal territory with the riffs and the beats. Some awesome death metal triplet chugs come in, even some more of those like classic heavy metal gallops. But you do get some like evil spoken word parts on this track before it ends on like the straight up melodeath thrashy note, and then it ends with some beautiful acoustic guitars that at first kind of sound proggy, and then it almost turns Middle Eastern a little bit. So it was a good pace setter for the album, but it didn't quite capture what this album was going to be about, and that was the whole balance of the black metal and the melodeath and traditional death metal. We do get plenty of all that in the song Unholy, which right off the rip you get a great sense of the guitar tone, which I will go ahead and say the guitar tone on here is pretty monstrous production-wise. It's kind of in between clean and gritty, so it's like the perfect sweet spot. Even in the mix, it's pretty well balanced, even though I will argue, and this is probably one of the only complaints I had about the album, might have been just a notch too compressed. But regardless, with the title track, it does get back to more of those like thrashy moments, but this is really where we get awesome vocal layers from Chad. Like you hear him do like almost like a Travis Ryan mid-range growl, and then his like black metal screams almost sound like if Glenn Benton did more black metal screams rather than death growls. So it made for this like cool vocal layering of like demonics, or not demonics, but like demonic screaming and growling at each other. It was just really, really cool to hear the vocal layers done kind of like old Deicide. But more of the riffs on this track kind of get more back to the thrash metal, where you get like more machine gun riffs, but you also get some cool melodic hooks and then death metal chugs. And then after the title track, we get a cover song. They cover Immortals One by One, which was one of my favorite Immortal songs. If you guys remember watching my ranking back in December, you'd know how much I love that song. And they do the song justice. They really did it justice. But then we get into the second half, where we kick it off with And All Shall Know His Name. This is really where the black metal starts coming in a little bit more. After this like weird evil orgy thing, it goes straight into like tremolo melodies and blast beats that sound a lot like Dissection before it goes back to being like thrashy melodeath. But you do get like a brief moment where you get like an atonal melody, but again, like pretty much across the board on this album, you get thrash and you get death metal chugs, which hell to the yes. And then the song That Day Has Come, really cool like dark piano piece to start this track off before you get into these blast beats and tremolos that sort of sit in between both black metal and death metal. But once again, it goes back to being thrashy and chuggy, but this was the one song where you get a lot more groove going on. And even musically, there's some nods to Behemoth on this track, I felt like. And I'm talking like Behemoth from The Satanist on back to Pandemonic Incantations. There's even a doom section where it's like slow, but the melodies are more atonal. And then you even get a lead melody, which there wasn't really a whole lot of lead melodies to be had on here. But still, when they showed up, they served their purpose. And then the closer, My Flesh to the Temptation, more somber tremolo melodies to kind of feel like melodic death metal, but also still you get some blast beats. There's more of the melodic death metal tropes going on here, but it once again gets thrashy, and you do get more like nasty riffage to kind of, again, keep up with the more straight up death metal influence that's on here. And you even get some like wonderfully done lead harmonies, more chugs, and then a proper true blues solo towards the end. So I would say songwriting wise, like I said, they're just kind of going for like a mix of black metal, melodic death metal, and traditional death metal, and a little bit of thrash. I would say thrash metal as well. So it's like extreme metal blender almost, minus grindcore. And yeah, like I said, really the only complaints I had about this album were might have been a little bit too compressed, but still the production's great. I would say the beginning of And All Shall Know His Name with that evil orgy thing, I get why they add that there is for aesthetics, but I don't know, it just felt odd. And then probably the biggest issue, and this is mostly a discrepancy thing. Like when I was referencing the track list on Metal Archives and then listening to it on YouTube when it came out on digital, the track lists for both of them were completely different. So I was like, okay, what happened here? Was Metal Archives wrong or was YouTube wrong? I was confused, to say the very least. But that's a minor issue, not really going to affect the score really much at all. So overall, I thought this was a killer debut, and I've loved everything from both Chad and Jason's other bands. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. This is an early contender right here for an Album of the Year list. But yeah, if you are a fan of Jason and Chad's other bands, ANGEROT, Suffer, you'll probably dig this. But as far as like direct influences, I would say if you're into Behemoth, Dissection, At the Gates, I would dare even say bands like Blood Red Throne, definitely give this a listen. I thought this was some pretty killer stuff. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.